Greetings and thank you very much for stopping by at this channel today. Hey, this is John Winter from Moving Arizona Homes at eXp Realty. And you know what I wanted to talk about was the question I get asked all the time. How's the market? What does that mean? And, is it the right time? Is it not? Here in Arizona, we've had some really goofy things and it's kind of making pricing wacky. And in this section, I wanted to talk about four separate things that have major determining factors on how we answer all of that. So yes, we've got wacky pricing going on here in Arizona and understanding what that means. So the four things that we have. First one, what we refer to as listings. Well, really, it's the supply. So if you think of the old adage of supply and demand, this is the supply. Listings, this is the houses that sellers say, hey, I'd like to be able to sell. Buyers say, okay, I want to go look at that. That's the supply of what we're looking at. The second thing is the solds, what we refer to as solds, but really it's the demand of that supply and demand. This is the buyers that are saying, I love this house, I want to buy it, here's what I'm willing to pay. Seller, will you sell it? And they do. So looking at those two things. The third one is what we refer to as months of supply. This one's a little on the more technical side because it's got math involved. Hey, I'm a math guy. I love math. Let me do the math. I'll just tell you the story about it. And then the fourth one is another one that has a little bit of math, but it's all about the negotiation of what's going on. And 25 years selling real estate and with a master's in negotiation from Cal State University, I really understand the principles of what negotiation is. And that's what this one does. But this is another one that's critical to what's going on in the marketplace. All right, so let's get some inventory. But hey, first, this is not the inventory I'm talking about. I'm a Minnesota boy. Mom and Dad sent this to me here just this last month, and this is why we got so many people moving to Arizona. They're saying enough. We did this back in 1994. We left that area, and we were living in Michigan, and we said, that's it. So let's go in. Yes, those are houses out there on the lake. But that's not the listings I'm referring to. Let's get to those. Here we go, Arizona listings. And what do I mean by that and tracking it? Let's give you an example. This is a little over a 4-year look here in Arizona of what's taking place. So if you look back there in April of 2015, gosh, we are well over 18,000 homes. And then if you look at the end of December here, just last month before coming into January 2020, we are down here at about 9,000 homes. That's been a drop of 9,000 homes. That's a major thing going on in the market. Just so you understand, for years and years and years before the market crashed, and that was 2005, we were called a hyper market, going good. We were running 26, 27,000 homes in a given month. You see here we're at 18. So we've kind of changed over that. And then when you think when the market did crash going into January 2007, we were over 72,000 homes. Well, now we're down to 9. So, it's this is a crazy market. This is what makes pricing goofy, but this is what makes you a savvy buyer or seller and adds to that. All right. So thinking of that, this is telling us something that's going on in the market. Again, I say 25 years looking at these numbers and this something going on. The second one that we have are those sold. So these are the demands. Well, and you see here back in April 2015, we had about 4,000 sales. And then, of course, it spikes up and then it drops and then it spikes up and drops and keeps going. You know what? The market fluctuates all the time. But this tracks with inventory. And this also is where we get to see, things that going in the market. Do I buy? Do I sell? If you had the ability and timing, this is one of the things that you want to look at because this is negotiation. All right. Well, there's a trend right here into this. So if we look in the summer here of 2019, August, we were over 9,000. Look at this. We've been increasing every single year in our peak time frames. And now, we've pushed 9,000 sales. It'll be interesting to see what happens next year if we're following this type of a trend. And I can tell you for the years prior, we were doing the same thing. So demands is another one, or the sales. That gives us the third one. So really this is a combination of number one and number two. This is a combination. This is math. We take number one, the listings and our supply, and we divide that by the demand, which are the solds. It gives us a number. look, back in December of 2015, that number, we call it months of inventory, months of supply, was running just right at about 3 months. And you're saying, well, John, what does that really mean? So 3 months of inventory says if the market stops today, it would take us 3 months to clear out the inventory for the same amount of sales in the previous month. So you're saying, okay, well, is that good or bad? Is that a buyer's market or seller's market? Well, as we look at this trend over the last 4 years, I'll answer that. Look at this. In January, we were at 1.4 months of inventory. That's been a gradual decline that picture gives us. So answering that question, is this good or bad, buyers or sellers? Well, let's look at what do these numbers really tell us. Buyer's market typically is right at about that 6 and going up. So if we go up from 6, when we do the math, that means we're going into that buyer's market. Seller's market is somewhere around 4. So if we're running between that 4 and the 6, that's a healthy market. And when you think of the healthy market, what that really is think of a clock hanging on the wall, antique clock. It's got a pendulum. It swings back and forth, back and forth. That's a healthy market. That's that 4 to 6 numbers is just referencing. If you take that pendulum, though, and you bring it up to one side and you let it go, it goes all the way down. It's going to come up. Well, that's when we talk about buyer's market or seller's market, because then we start pushing outside of those numbers, 4 and 6. When you think of those numbers 4 and 6 as what was demonstrating here on this chart, you think that where are we at? We haven't been in a buyer's market for quite a few years. You'll see we're below that mark. What we are looking at is we've kind of been in a seller's market, a light seller's market going down. And think of this, where we ended in December coming into this year, we were at 1.4. Yeah, guess what? That's telling us is that we're going into a seller's market that's heavier now. What does that mean? Seller's market, not so good for buyers. Why? Because sellers have the ability to buyers competing for property, 2, 3, 4, maybe offers at one time. That's called multiple offers. And with that in mind, sellers are saying, you know what? I'm listing here and I'm going to stay a little bit firmer. That's what takes us to the 4th number. So the months of inventory or months of supply is really a critical number, gives us a gauge of answering that question. Are we in a buyer's market or seller's market? Well, guess what? From what you just saw on that chart, we're really pushing into a heavier seller's market. And it'll be interesting to see as we progress through this year, are we going to track to that trend that we have had in the last couple of years? Well, let's look at the 4th one. That's what we refer to as the sold to list price ratio. What is that really referencing? That just says, well, if we have this house and it's listed at $550,000, and then a buyer comes in and says, hey, I love this house, I want to buy it, and they negotiate a price at $539,000, well, that's at about a 98%. What do I mean by that? The seller is, in essence, getting about 98% of what they asked. So $539,000 sell price, the sold price, is below. All right. And when we think of that, I come back to the demonstrating. You got the listing, you've got a buyer. Buyer doesn't want to pay as much up, but as our inventories change and they get lesser and lesser and we have more sales, that just makes this gap a little bit tighter. That just means that the seller is going to be less reluctant to give up on price, knowing full well because of competition. Well, in that time of year, and you can see this as we get into the chart, that the farther we get from the competition and sellers needing to sell, what we'll see is that sell price comes down and buyers are able to negotiate a little bit more. When we think of that list price sell price ratio, and in the last couple of years, you'll see here, in January of 2018, we are at 98%, which is meaning that the sellers are getting 98% and they were able to negotiate. This doesn't mean that everybody got 98%. Some people could have got 100. Some people could have got 96. Price point has a lot to do with this. And that's in a whole different session we can look at. But price point is a big deal. Well, like right now, anybody running around 200, 250,000, 275, you can't keep those houses in inventory because it's so tight. And really, really close. Well, as we progress through the year, and you'll see this, look what happened in the summer. Inventory started to go down, sales increased. We increased into a 98.6, which means the sellers are getting closer and closer to that. I want my list price. Well, then as we progress through the year, we see more inventories coming on and the sales, looky here, then drops back down. We'll look at where we ended up in January. We're at about 98 and a half somewhere. You know, at one point last year, we were pushing almost 99% on average. That's pretty good for sellers and tougher on buyers. But that's understanding the list price sell price ratio. So these are four major factors when we get into whether it's trying to price a home or negotiate a deal on behalf of a buyer, and what are we offering. These are factors that have to come into play. In this video, this is what we were talking about. You know, the four major factors: the supply, the demand, the months of supply, and then how is it that buyers and sellers, and looking at that. Really want to say thank you very much, and be able that you stopped by and came in. If you like this video and the information in it, give it a thumbs up, click onto that. And then also, if look below there, you can join the channel and do this on a monthly, because this does change monthly, and you'll be able to give us an idea. Also, what I have for you is click onto the link, and you can get all this information in the detail and a whole bunch more. A number of different things we're tracking and being able to watch. Thank you again. Hey, this is John Winter, Moving Arizona Homes at eXp Realty. Thank you, and have a great day.